Hello there. Tonight's show is quite a nice one, actually, because this is a roundup of all the stuff that we've done. You remember the first show we did was on the Data Protection Act, right? And what was really nice, because you can get all your data, your personal data from organisations, corporations, governments, if you write to them under this act. And loads of people wrote in and said, oh, I'm trying to get my data from this person, I'm trying to get my data from that person. And my favourites were, David Shayler has applied to the Home Office for his data. Which is going to be great, because there's bound to be one in there going, that treacherous bastard. But my other favourite one, we got this lovely email from this bloke, this little kid. He said, I'm 8 years old and I've just requested my personal data from my school. But also you can get your images on CCTV cameras. And we're running a competition for the best CCTV footage. And Jonathan Ross is actually has said he'll judge it. Comfortable. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to judging the CCTV competition.
Okay, hold on to that. Hold on to that side. We'll jump together.
Are you ready?
Okay. Sorry, I was doing the kind of jam version.
Oh, you're a selfish lover. Fancy a glass of champagne somewhere?
I think I fancy discussing Chomsky down at Groucho's.
Always good for a bit of Chomsky.
There's 5 ex-miners who came down to London, it was about 2 weeks ago, and did the full Monty in front of the Bank of England. They've requested the footage. They've gone for it. It's fantastic. But, also, we got this little email from a bloke who said, I'm an art student and I've decided I'm going to, for my final year dissertation, I'm doing the Threepenny Opera on CCTV. My favourite one, I got asked to go on Loose Ends, you know, this Radio 4 thing with Ned Sherrin. So they record it in front of an audience, and what I did was, before the audience went in, I grabbed these 6 sort of middle-aged women from Leeds who were down for London for the weekend. So what I did was 4 of them, I gave them sombreros and big guns, right? And 2 of them I gave little hats and revolvers. And you know the BBC building, the broadcasting house with big fucking doors? We reenacted the last scene from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And if you've got entries, send them in. The second programme we did was on the MEP's interests, the Register of MEP's interests. Basically, the only record that's kept is in these rooms, one in Brussels, one in Strasbourg. You have to book an appointment to get there. It's all handwritten. You can't photograph, you can't photocopy. You have to sit there and write everything out. 3 people went in there for 3 days, copied the whole thing, bunged it up on the internet and said, oh, bollocks. And what happened was, we got this letter from Glyn Ford, MEP, Labour, who said... it's from his solicitor. Said, you have damaged my reputation by putting up misleading information on your internet site. I said, yeah? He said, I am in fact a columnist, and you put I was in fact a communist. So we had to take the site down and sort of double-check that all the... Because, you know, they're all handwritten and they're very difficult to read. In fact, what we did was, just to prove how difficult they are, Duncan from the team went over there the other day and spent 2 days in this office, and he got there and it was the same woman who was in there when we had the team and when we were fucking about. And he walked in and she just went, I recognise you. Where are you from? He said, Channel 4. Vera Productions, isn't it? I said, yes. There is no photocopying. There is no trickery at all. You just write it down. And so Duncan had to sit there, poor bloke sitting there. He was at this desk writing everything down. And he said, I could just feel her looking at the back of my head. And you know those little scanners? You can get those little scanners that you just whiz across paper and it takes it all in. He had one of those in his pocket. He said it was dreadful. He said, I was in there for 2 days, he said. But she slipped out for sort of 15 minutes and Duncan was like, scanner. And then he dashed out. He said it was like Escape to Victory. It was fantastic. And can we show the example of the MEP's handwriting? Look at the fucking state of that. I mean, what is that? There are doctors sitting there going, that is outrageous. Look, he's decided to do a fucking drawing here. Look. We said, we want to put the site back up. If we email every single MEP and say, this is what we've got, can you correct it, and send it back, is that all right? And they've started replying, so we're getting the site back up. That's the first good news. The second good news, one of the people who appeared in the film was a Tory MEP called Roger Helmer, and we asked him to put plastic animals into his mouth, which was a cat, a cockerel, and a hare. Can you spot the Freudian imagery? And this is from a Conservative MEP who said all the information is correct. P.S. The piece where you called out Roger Helmer, my Tory colleague in the East Mids, was very funny. Shame he didn't use the cockerel first. This is another one from another Tory. Dear Mr. Thomas, I very much enjoy your show, particularly the excellent stitching up of Meacher. And of course, who could forget Roger Helmer sucking that cock? That's what he says, man. Check it out. We started looking up what they were saying in the European Parliament about what we've done. This is from Richard Balfe. He said, Madam President, I also regret that a British comedy programme sought to make light of the Parliament. I think the sooner this is on the internet, the better. Hooray! And that's what they're doing. They're going to put it on the internet. So, hooray, we win! The third show we did was about Mr. Meacher. And it's great, actually. It's fucking lovely. Because my mum came round the other day and said, look, have you seen the front of the Daily Mail? It's all about Keith Vaz having all these houses. And it says, and the front page of the Mail, it just says, Vaz has got 5 houses and believed to be second only to the Environment Minister, Michael 8 Holmes Meacher. And what was lovely as well, because Channel 4 run this political award thing where they get all these politicians down, and all the Channel 4 executives go down, they meet all these politicians, and basically they polish corporate cock. And they sort of, Channel 4 are down there going, if you do privatise us, there will be share options, won't there? So, apparently Jon Snow walked on stage and just said, Michael Meacher will be dropping in later on to pick up the rent. So... And you just think, fantastic, that's his defining characteristic. Meanwhile, back in Oldham, it all kicked off in Michael Meacher's constituency. And a guy called Dave Hibbert, who is the leader of the Labour Council, had this thing quoted in the Oldham Chronicle. And he says, Michael Meacher told me and asked me to make it clear to his constituents that he has 3 properties. One in the Cotswolds, left to him by family member, a house in Chatterton for the overnight stays, and a house in London. He then goes on to say he has simply invested in 2 properties in Wimbledon. So we thought, all right. So I gave him a call and said, you checked that with Mr. Meacher? Yes. And you stand by it? Yes, I do. Within a space of a few short hours, the phone rang again. Hello? Well, you know I said I was going to stand by it. I am retracting some of it, and I'm going to publish a correction in the Oldham Chronicle. Oh, really? Which bits are you retracting? Well, you know I said the house in the Cotswolds was left to him by a family member? Yes, you mean the house that was 4 workers' houses put together in one, has a swimming pool, but the tennis court application was rejected? Yes, that's the one. No, he didn't inherit it. He bought it on the open market. All right. Anything else? Well, you know the bit where I said he's only got 2 flats? Yes, I've clarified the matter with Mr. Meacher, and he has told me exactly how many properties he does have. And, I can't tell you how many it is. Anyway, listen, the people in Oldham simply do not care how many properties Mr. Meacher has. So Friday, we went up and commissioned a poll in Oldham.
Why do we call them honourable? How many of them, of our MPs, are honourable? How many? None of them.
He's been a bit hypocritical by owning a lot of property and renting them out and earning a good living.
It's the same one thing and doing another.
We're going to make a quick phone call. We've got Michael Meacher's mobile. Okay.
Hello?
Mr. Meacher?
Yeah?
Oh, hi, I'm recording this for broadcast. It's Mark Thomas from Channel 4 here. I was just phoning up because, you said that people in Oldham didn't care about how many properties you had. We did a survey and 75% said they did. And we wondered if you might tell us how many properties you do in fact own. Well, there we are. There's the man who believes in transparency and accountability. Oh, the other thing was, I was sitting outside Tory Central Office the other day, right? So, I'm sitting outside and this bloke comes out, and you know how you can tell people by the lining on their suit? Bright green silk. And he just came up to me and said, "Oh, I love that show you did on Meat Show. Wonderful, wonderful." Because he said, "That's the lovely thing about being in opposition." He said, because you've put the boot into us for 18 years and it's great to see the other lot get it. It really is. He said, what are you doing outside Tory Central Office? He said, "Oh, it's nothing too hideous, is it?" William Hague. William Hague, in his Register of Members' Interest, states this: "Any fees received from speaking engagements will be paid into the William Hague Charitable Trust." We are stupid. We are so stupid. We're just thick. Because we phoned up the Charity Commission and said, "Is there such a thing as the William Hague Charitable Trust?" And there isn't. It's not there. So he gives the impression that he will distribute monies to charitable causes. But the trust is not there. Does not exist. In fact, it's been up on the Register of Members' Interest for 2 years. And we thought, hello? Where's the money gone, Will? Where's the money gone? Have you earned any? Has it been distributed to charities? What's going on? Because this appears to be misleading. It is misleading. It's incorrect. And I phoned up his private secretary and said, "This charitable trust," he said, "No, it doesn't exist." We said, "No, we know, it's not registered, is it?" No. I said, "Well, why do you think that was?" He said, "What it was people were just very keen. They jumped the gun. We were going to do it. We put it in the register, and then we didn't get round to it. And then we just forgot to take it off for 2 years." And I thought, well, they must be that overworked that they've missed it. So, the following day, went down to Tory Party Central Office with a coach with 50 temps. Lined them up outside. We brought along some temps. We've got some 50 temps for you. Right. To help with the office work. They're yours for the day. We've paid for them. OK? So if someone could... There's a whole busload of them just outside. What's your shorthand like? Are you good on shorthand? Yeah? You're expert, brilliant. Fantastic. This is the written statement.
That's the written statement.
Thank you very much indeed. OK. The reason the trust was not registered with the Charity Commission was that the trust was never established. It was registered in the Register of Members' Interest in advance of establishment on advice of the registrar. However, since the trust has not been set up, it will not be included in future Register of Members' Interest. Any speaking fees, etc., are therefore given to local charities. That's not really answered all the questions, really, has it? Eventually, I phoned up and I got through to this fella called Andrew Scaddings, who is the press officer, Tory Central Office, and this is the transcript of what happened. Can I just be clear about this? Are you saying in the statement that the statement in the Register of Members' Interest is not misleading?
I've got nothing to add to the statement, I'm afraid.
So you're not going to say if you think it's misleading?
I've got nothing to add to the statement, I'm afraid.
Well, you must be able to take a view on it, because if he makes the speeches, it gives the impression that the money's going to the trust. If the trust doesn't exist, then it appears to be misleading.
I've got nothing to add to the statement, I'm afraid.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Hague has earned nothing? I have nothing to add to that statement. Do you think that when people say I've got nothing to add to that statement, it looks evasive? I have nothing to add to that statement. Oh, the last bit I should say was I did add on, do you not think it's slightly weird and hypocritical because you've questioned the government over Keith Vaz and Peter Mandelson over potential impropriety, as you rightly should do, and you have made much of the fact that they haven't come forward with the full disclosure, as you rightly should do, and now you're turning round and you will not come forth with information. Don't you think that's hypocritical? I have nothing. So, I did actually manage to talk to William Hague, though, for all of a second. You know your charity fund? You know your charitable fund? That you haven't registered it? Mr. Cole, I wonder if you could... It's just that... Do you mind if we register the William Hague Charitable Trust? Is that all right? Is that OK if we do that? And we have applied to register the William Hague Charitable Trust. Any donations we receive will be distributed to asylum seekers, refugees in William Hague's constituency. Then we come on to the Export Credit Guarantee Department. And this is where it gets interesting. The Export Credit Guarantee Department, for those of you who don't know, they underwrite British business when they export abroad. If a default happens, then we, the taxpayer, stump up the money. We phoned up this bloke at the OECD, which is the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, quite a big sort of prestigious body for developed countries rather. And we talked to the bloke who is in charge, the chairman of the Committee for the Implementation of the Convention on Bribery and Corruption.
We have 34 members of the group. 28 have actually ratified and implemented the convention. We have found that, let's say, 1/3 are spick and span, 1/3 are doing relatively fine, and 1/3 are kind of substandard. There's one country which has actually clearly flunked the exam, and I'm sorry to say it's the United Kingdom.
I said, well, who are Britain's peers when it comes to bribery and corruption? He said, Turkey, Argentina and Brazil. Like, the developed world is looking at Britain and they just see Jack Straw on the street going, give us a quid to look after your car, come on.
So if Britain doesn't get its house in order in a fairly short space of time, there may be mounting pressure from OECD members to actually start some formal kind of sanction.
Yes, I want to impress that this is a very, very serious business, a very serious situation, and at the moment it looks as if this government here is not really serious about combating transnational bribery.
If Britain doesn't move, we are looking at the possibility that other member states will call for sanctions on Britain. You just sort of think, 5 years down the line, right, if we don't get this bill in place, 5 years down the line, I want to be in that cabinet room when Tony Blair and Jack Straw get the telegram. Saddam Hussein, it's a fucker, innit? Oh, yeah, this, you know we did the programme about Adidas in the schools? Well, the kids were genuinely fantastic. And actually, before we sort of did the filming with them, I was talking to some of them and saying, you know, like, what do you know about sort of development economics, you know, free trade, fair trade, trade liberalisation, globalisation, developing labour, sweated labour? What do you know about these issues? I said, well, we have done some of it in class. I said, right. And this one kid said, well, I have found this software program on the net that translates into Cambodian, and I'm talking to people in Cambodia about trying to source the materials they use in Nike and Gap. And I'm like, I don't agree with Labour, but do you want a job? This is very cool. Well, the school are going for Nike and Gap to come and visit them, to talk to them next year. And they've had so many sort of inquiries from other schools, they're talking about putting it on a webcast. So their discussions with these people from these companies about development, about sweated labour, will go out across Great Britain and the world, and all the other schools will have a chance to chip in. And we're hoping that people in Indonesia will be able to log on as well. And that will be cool. Then, you see, the whole programme came about because of these things called Jazzy Books, where they send out these books that are covered in advertising for kids to use, so exercise books. And the reason that they get these books is because the government doesn't give schools enough money, so they have to rely on sponsors giving them the books. And then we got to hear of a school in Worthing called the Thomas à Becket School, who had been offered some money by Allied Dunbar. The deal was, it was a match-for-match funding. Allied Dunbar put some in, and the government match it, they buy sports equipment. Allied Dunbar would give them the money on condition that the school provided 40 households from the school to attend an informative and yet informal talk with cheese and wine about the work of Allied Dunbar. Only 16 households volunteered to attend, so Allied Dunbar withdrew the money. And we thought, that's very mean. So we went down to Swindon, to their head office, and we turned up with 24 people, upright, standing citizens who were prepared to listen to an informative and yet informal talk. Because 24, 16, 40, you've got your figure there. what we've done is we've brought these guys along. They're quite happy. There's to listen to the sales talk. Okay, and what we're hoping is that the emotion and the sweet singing will melt your hearts, and that you'll give the school the money.
Right. Let me go and make some inquiries, Mark. Find out what's going on. Very happy to have you guys singing. It's lovely.
Excellent. Well, I hope it
back to you very shortly.
I hope it can jog something so we can get the school the money. That would be a nice thing to do.
For this school, it's not a done deal, but we can sort of start talking to the school again.
Can you not just give it to them?
I would like to say yes, Mark, but at the moment all I can say is it's still on the table, the money's still there.
Because you just look at this, not you, but
No,
Allied Dunbar,
no,
just
fine.
look a bit tight now.
It's
They
not
can sing down the
looking
phone.
tight. Right, I will go and make a few
Right.
calls, okay? If you want to stay here.
Can I get a cup of tea?
Our approach to this sort of donation is normally as a way to leverage more money and more sort of volunteering services in the community. So we'd like to say yes, we'll give you 500 quid, which is what we'd pledge to the school. If Channel 4, as they're so interested, would match it, which is what we'd normally do.
Yeah, we'll match it. Absolutely.
And then obviously we'll approach the government and see if they will match it as well.
So
Same
you're
speed.
gonna pay the school the money.
The school, the singing was worth it on its own, yes.
Fantastic. She said, you know they're prepared to sit and listen to an informative and yet informal talk. Are they ready? I said, we got the money now, fuck it, let's go. That's it now. That's a lot. That's the last of the series. So we've had Data Protection Act, which was more effective than freedom of information. A bunch of bureaucrats and Euro MPs who would rather that we went to Brussels to find out what they're up to. A minister who's fucking into housing in a big way. We've had a group of school kids rumbling a multinational. We've had the ECGD getting caught out on the hop, and we could be facing sanctions from the OECD. And we did the Tube one the other week that said, hail the loveliness of public transport and fuck off, you bastards, with your fucking money-grabbing, evil, privatising, fuck off ways. Don't know if we'll be back again, but who knows, we'll all struggle on in our own little ways. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thanks very much.